what is happening in the UK. They just all sell up and leave, anyone who's got any money? Because I think that's what they need to do.
Well, I think after what's been happening in the last couple of days, they may want to. The UK economy shrinking by 0.3%. That's pre-early exports and the Trump trade war, isn't it?
No, it's the effect of her bringing in the employee national insurance and the minimum wage. It took place at the beginning of April, so that's what's taken that down. And also we've got UK unemployment 4-year high, and it's not only that, you've got UK borrowing costs. They're the highest out of any developed country in the world at the moment. For 10-year debt, they're having to pay 4.62%. Now let's just put that into perspective. Japan has to pay 1.46%. Italy 3.47%. So the UK is the worst of the worst out of any single leading developed country. So it's borrowing on the international bond markets is just going through the roof. So that means the costs are going through the roof to cover the debts in the UK, which means, unfortunately, she's got on this little spending splurge as well. Means that if you're in the UK, come October when she does her special little budget, there are going to be huge tax consequences for anyone left in the UK still earning money. And
they're not that far in yet, Labour. Can we be blaming them so much for so
Yes, we can.
Already? We
can be blaming her. Let's put it this way, they got rid of Liz Truss after a few days and she did a lot less damage than this woman's doing. So yes, we can blame them. It is solely down to them. With tax rises, we're going to have more. They're expected, obviously, as normal. They're looking at wealth tax. However, they're seen as wealth tax will not raise enough money because most of the wealthy are leaving in their droves. So what is she likely to target in October? Pensions. Okay, she's always muted looking at pensions. The one thing they can do, I don't think they can eradicate the tax-free lump sum that people get. I think then there would be a complete total unrest. But she can reduce it. It was reduced to 268,000 or just over. And she's looking to reduce that to about 100,000. So if you have a pension pot, you can take 25%, usually tax-free, up to 268,000. Actually, it's £275. But she's thinking of reducing that to 100,000. So that will have a big impact on people who are due to retire and are looking at that money maybe to pay off their mortgage, to make themselves debts free so they can live off their pensions. You've got to remember that the pension age is rising to 67 in 2028, I think. I'm sure it's 2028. So at the moment it's 55. So if you haven't reached 67 by 67 by then, you're going to have to wait. So everything is against people being able to retire and enjoy their retirement. So she's looking at pensions. Also, oh God, yeah, we've talked about inheritance tax. She wants to limit the amount, so I'm not sure. She won't raise the thresholds for inheritance tax, which is at the moment $325 per person, or if you're married, that comes in at $650, obviously on second death, or you can ignore that and you can just do it on your property, so you get 500,000 each, so you get $1 million to give on property, but you don't get both, so it's one or the other. So she most probably won't raise the threshold. So again, that is penalising people, because as we know, inflation in England and house price increases meant that you're well above that threshold usually. And capital gains tax, at the moment, capital gains is roughly around 20% in the UK. There's talk of they want to align that to income tax rates. So that means that capital gains could go to 40% or above. Everything is against motivating people to work, motivating people to achieve something, motivating people to invest and earn money. It's all against trying to better yourselves. It's trying to keep you down all the time. And I can't see any light at the end of the tunnel.
Sorry, I was going to say budget, but isn't this spending review meant to help the very low paid and those who don't have a lot of money? And will it help them? But even if it's taking away from the middle class?
They're talking about cutting benefits. They've done a U-turn on the winter fuel allowance, but then they're going to penalise people because they're going to tax them if they go above us. So they're going to give with one hand, take with the other. There is
It sounds to me like what most governments do anyway.
Yeah, but this government has got it strikingly wrong. It is so wrong. the amount of non-doms that have left the UK, the amount of millionaires that are leaving the UK, companies are not investing.
But we've talked about that before, haven't we? The people that are in the UK that had money weren't really putting a whole deal of cash back into the...
We're not talking about the very rich here. We are talking people with $1 million or above. So people who are selling their properties and they're moving abroad. These are the people, the middle classes, that they need to get taxed from. There is only so many people you can tax. What people have to understand is benefits, anything you get from the government is not from government funds, it's from taxes that people pay. Okay, so the more we hand out, the more they have to find some mugs to tax, and there's only a limited proportion of society that they can tax. The very wealthy will never pay much tax because they have the legal expertise, the accounting expertise behind them to ensure that they do not pay much tax. So that is left to the working classes. So most people who listen to this radio are working people, middle classes, who are not on benefits and actually work for a living. You cannot spend and then find an imaginary black hole and increase that imaginary black hole all the time and blame other governments. This has happened since your watch. It's what you've done since you've come in. And I think if you're going to be Chancellor of the Exchequer, you should have at least Maths A level. You should have worked in an economics setting, either for a bank or for a company, not someone who was on the reception desk handing out teas and bits of paper. I'm sorry, there is something so wrong, and I cannot understand how she is still in power in this position when you had Liz Truss having to go after a few days when what she was proposing was a lot less damaging than what's happening under Labour. So it really does beg a belief how she's hanging on, but we'll have to wait and see.
She's not ruling out not raising taxes.
She
won't rule it out.
She fails to rule out tax rises. This is the headline. As the economy shrinks, and it is going to carry on shrinking because companies. Most banks have stopped hiring this year. You've got Jamie Dimon coming out and saying, don't take on any new people, don't take on any graduates.
He's saying the economy could deteriorate soon. He's talking about the American economy, but the World Bank is saying that the economy across the planet is set for its worst run since 2008, outside of the recessions we've had. Have we been outside of any recession since then? I have no idea.
Can't remember.
Just seem to be in them all the time.
I can't remember any time outside of recession. 2007 just seems to be dragging on and on and on. I would like to say I can see light at the end of the tunnel, but I can't. They're just starting off. Even if we have a change in leadership in Labour, who do they replace it with? So if you are in the UK, please look at ways of mitigating the tax in any way you can. If you live outside the UK, it's a lot easier because you can always transfer your investments to something that's outside the UK. And if you've been outside the UK over 10 years, it's highly unlikely with the new non-dom regime that they can come after you. So there are things you need to do. And in the UK, you need to talk to your accountant, you need to talk to your financial advisor, you need to look into trusts, you need to look at ways of sheltering your wealth until this is over, until things become a little bit more stable.
Somebody like JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon warning that the situation on economic data, especially for the States, could turn worrisome because of Donald Trump's tariffs. The World Bank talking about problems being caused by Donald Trump's tariffs. You're not convinced that that's all it is, are you? Or you are?
No, I'm not. If you think US and China have agreed a trade deal, and Trump has said that it will be sending letters to every country within the next 2 weeks on what their tariffs will be, and it's highly likely that countries or trading blocs such as the EU, because they call it a trading bloc, who are negotiating will get more time. But if someone's not negotiating, then the US will not. So China and America, that was the big spat. They've agreed. That's why the markets are
settled.
basically flat today. And what you've got is the US. I've just done a thing. So I've just looked up US inflation in June 24 versus US inflation in June 25. So in June 24, it was 3.54%. Now in the US, it is 2.4%. So that's gone down. If you look at May's unemployment figures, we had the US adding 139,000 jobs, smashing expectations. We had leisure and hospitality that took up 48,000 jobs, transporting and warehousing 5,800, construction 4,000. So you've got things turning around there. You've got inflation down, you've got jobs up, and yet people still are saying, things are wrong. And I've got an actual flow chart here, which someone's put together. And it's
Love
called
a flow chart.
It's got the 7 stages of Trumpanian negotiation.
Right. I loved what that somebody said to him. Taco, Trump always chickens out on his trade.
Trumpanian. So it's got number 1, ask for the world. Number 2, create chaos, knocks opponents off balance. Make it personal, obviously, which he has. Threaten to walk, which he has. Manufacture a crisis, force the issue, make them sweat. So that's where he is now. And with them, declare a victory, claim success, even if the dust is still settling, which if you look at China, US, he is. And then the 7th one is move on, shift the spotlight, the cycle begins again. So he'll get a new thing to go through.
All over again. We don't want to get
it won't be on tariffs, no, that'll be on something else. Shift the spotlight, get a new enemy, and the cycle begins again. So we'll have to wait and see. But if China and the US can come to an agreement, and neither of them seem too worried about it, then the rest of the world can as well.
Okay, on agreements, I have to say, the UK with an agreement with the EU and Spain on Gibraltar.
Oh gosh, yeah.
We didn't see that one coming as immediate as it did, because 1 minute David Lammy is on a plane to Gib, then on a plane to Brussels. Next day, all done and dusted after all these years since Brexit.
Well, yeah, it seems what we'll do is basically the deal preserves the Schengen area, the EU single market and the customs union, but it remove the physical barriers between, so it's not really that much of a deal, remove the physical barriers between Spain and Gibraltar. So it means that people working there can come and go freely. They don't have to show their passports, they don't have to show documents. However, if you fly into Gibraltar or you come in by boat, you will still have to show your passports, your documentation.
Like that you do on Eurostar.
Yep. So, and on goods, all parties agreed on principle that indirect taxation will be applied in Gibraltar, including on tobacco. So basically Brits have given him more than anyone else. So they've agreed that tax can be applied on tobacco because people go to Gibraltar. Because what's happening at the moment...
It does mean, though, does it not, that there are Spanish boots on Gibraltar soil at the airport?
Yes.
It depends on which way you look at this,
yes.
and who's
but also,
written it, whether it's written from a UK or a Gibraltarian point of view.
I think they tried to keep the barrier in place because what people are doing is they go to work in Gibraltar, tax-free cigarettes, bring them back over and sell them in Spain and make a profit, which most people would do. I
used to live right on that border, and a lot of the problem is actually all the boats running cigarettes on the coast.
So that's what they're trying to stop. So this deal does go away to stopping that because obviously Gibraltar has agreed to apply taxation to tobacco, so it won't make it so favourable to do what I'd call smuggling, really, modern day smuggling happening. But it does make it so much easier, especially because if you look at La Linea, which is the Spanish town just on the other side of Gibraltar, I'd say 90% or more work in Gibraltar.
Indeed.
And the amount of time they have to spend each day getting across the border is ridiculous. So now it means that they can just walk backwards and forwards, hopefully as long as nothing goes wrong, and we've got that deal in place. So it means if you live in Spain and you want to go over to Gibraltar, you can now without any worries. You can just trot over and trot back, which is really, really good because, there shouldn't. Why is there a physical border? Spanish people are benefiting from working. Gibraltar's benefiting. So hopefully this is a deal that will help both sides. No one's going to be seen as giving too much or taking too much. So it's a good win-win for diplomacy.
Elsewhere on the European mainland, Switzerland have returned to deflation in May. What's that all about, and why are they in deflation and the rest of us are inflation?
The thing is, they're talking about bringing in negative interest rates.
What?
So what that means is it's good if you have a mortgage because they'll be paying you, but if you have any savings, you will be paying them to hold your savings. So what happens is that they've brought inflation under control very, very well. However, I feel deflation, every country needs deflation. If you think how much the
Trump's been trying to do.
Yeah, if you think how much the cost of goods have gone up since COVID, and we are talking on food 50, 70, sometimes 100% or more, 400%, and they're saying, right, inflation is slowing down, inflation is this. But to get back to where we were and to give us back our buying power, because our wages haven't gone up by 100, 400%, we need deflation. However, that is bad because it means if you've just bought a car and suddenly deflation happens and you've got a loan, this is the disparity between the value of your car and what you've borrowed. Same for houses. It just doesn't work. But however, if you think of it logically, deflation should be happening to get us back so we get the same buying power we had before. But in Switzerland, we'll have to wait to see. It'd be very interesting if they do bring in negative interest rates, because if you remember, when interest rates were low in the Eurozone, they were talking of negative interest rates, and some banks were in Spain actually charging people to put their money on deposit.
Now, if you haven't put enough into your retirement pot, you may be singing for your supper.
It's not that. People did, when they were planning for their retirement, they thought, right, we need this much to retire at a good level. However, a study has come out in the UK, it's been issued by PLSA, I can't remember who that is, it's one of the societies, and pension costs are soaring. No surprise, because inflation's been soaring. So they said, if you want a moderate retirement in the UK, this is not going to buy you a luxury lifestyle. It just covers basics, a 2-week holiday in Europe, and the ability to run a car. If you are single, you need approximately 31,000 in income a year, and obviously you've got tax will come off that. And if you are in a couple, 44,000. Now, if you want a comfortable lifestyle, this is not a luxury lifestyle, but a comfortable lifestyle. For a couple, you need to have over 60,000 per annum as income. How many of us have that? So if we're in Spain, if you had that much income as a couple, you'd be very, very well off. You'd be luxury. How many of us have that money? And if you're thinking of moving back to the UK, you've got to take that into consideration. Not only that, if you sell your home in Spain, I know prices, especially in our area, are very, very good. You are still not going to be able to buy something of a comparable size in the UK for that money. So you're going to have to downsize without getting any money back, and you're going to have more income to have a very, very good standard of living. And lots of people come in and they say, when they get older, oh, maybe we should move back to the UK. They suddenly miss friends, family. However, they haven't seen them for years. And when you move back to the UK, you don't see them any more than you usually do if you live in Spain, because they come and visit, because they've got their working lives, they've got their social lives. I know they're nearer if you need them, but that is something you have to take in consideration if you are thinking of moving back. Because in Spain, we know that if a couple earns 44,000 euros a year, no matter where you live, you are going to have a very good standard of living. Whereas in the UK, that is considered a moderate, just paying for basics, 1 holiday a year and a car. So you've got to factor in, the extra taxation, the council tax, everything in the UK is higher than here. So I think that should be an eye-opener for people. And most people moved here, not only for the sunshine, the weather, the friendly people, but also for the standard of living they could achieve for a lot less money. And that still is the case in most European countries that you move to.
Right, so the Pension and Lifetime Savings Association Retirement Living Standards Report, I had it written down in front of me, luckily, is a concern. And it looks like, pensions are always when you look at it and go, right, where do I start? What do I do? And you generally need some help.
You need to start in your 20s, really,
Well,
especially
yes.
nowadays.
I mean, let's say your average Bay Radio listener is beyond 20. We'd perhaps need somebody to help us take a look at what we currently have, where it is, what we're doing with it, and whether we can perhaps ramp some of that up, or you do something slightly different with it in order to raise it up to the standards that we need now.
Yes, and that's where a financial advisor can come into play. We can, offer you advice. Some people don't want any risk. We've got products with no risk. Some people want to take some risk, etc. So we can do something, hopefully, to meet anyone's needs. However, unless you're in a capital guaranteed with a fixed rate, investments can go up as well as down. But if anyone's out there, I know it sounds really daunting, but if you're 20s, late 20s, early 30s, you need to be saving for your retirement now. I was talking to a friend the other day and I said, I feel really sorry for the youth growing up today. There are no final salary pension guaranteed schemes. State pension is likely to be means tested when you get older. Really, if you're sort of mid-40s or above, we've had the best there is with regard to pensions, and people really do need to factor that in a big way into their life and what they're going to be doing in the future. It's too late to start thinking about it really when you're in your late 50s, early 60s. You are going to be working well into your late 60s, maybe 70s, maybe till you die. So please be very, very careful. And I know it's really daunting, and at 20 you think, oh, I don't really care. But time goes past so quickly.
You won't regret it. But
you won't
regret it.
You won't regret it. Most people are going to live a very, very good to a very ripe old age, and you need that money there.
Okay, I'm going to post this Pension and Lifetime Savings Association
If you
Retirement
can.
Living Standards report on our Facebook page, just so people can take a look and see, because there's quite a decent another graph there, a plan.
Yeah, there is actually. There's some very, very good stuff there.
What you can expect depending on how much money you'll have. Okay. And certainly, if anybody would like some help and further advice on what to do, even if, say, you are beyond the 20 to 30.
Yes, oh gosh, yeah, any age you can come and see us at
yeah.
Blacktower.
Yeah, and there are ways and there are things that you can get involved in. Some are more risky than others, but generally, there are things that you can do on a medium to high risk that you can bump things up.
And also you've got to remember investing is medium to long term, and if you take that view, and I know I'm talking to someone who's taken that view in yourself, it does work out, and you can vouch for that. It does work out. You've just got to see when the bad times come, just listen to me when I say don't panic, it will bounce back, and just really for that minute bury your head in the sand.
Or if you want to buy a Ferrari, she won't let you do that either.
No, I won't let you do it. But we've got to quickly talk, because in 2 weeks' time I'm going to be doing the show, but we've managed to get to come on a chief investment officer, a very highly respected one from Marlborough. He will be coming in from the UK, obviously dialing in from the UK. His name's Nathan Sweeney, and he heads up their multi-asset funds. And he has spent over 10 years in senior management of fund management, and he's going to be answering various questions on where we see the US going, what are the issues today, where should we be investing. So if there's anyone out there who's interested in getting that view, please listen in. It's on I think it's the 26th at 4:00, is that correct?
Yeah, 2 weeks' time, yeah.
Yeah, 26th of June. And also, he did mention if you have any questions that you'd like to put to him, if you could either email or WhatsApp them to BayRadio, or even when he's on air, if you send in questions, he's more than happy to answer any questions that people have. So while you've got that expertise at hand, please, if you can, he's got over 25 years investment management experience. Listen in, see what he's got to say. And if you have any questions, please feel free to send them into BayRadio.
Indeed, looking forward to that, because whilst it may be difficult to predict what Mr. Trump is going to do today or tomorrow, the companies like Marlborough, they take that longer term view. They've seen these things come and go, and they know how things are going to turn out generally, so have a better idea perhaps than your average man or woman on the street.
Yeah, and obviously all these companies have been analysing Trump. That was their 7 stages of Trumpanian. That was from Marlborough. Brilliant. So they're doing a lot of work on it. They're trying to understand, what makes the man tick, how he works, and it could be very, very interesting. So I know BayRadio are going to mention it on the radio quite a few times, but if you can put it in your diary, I think you should listen to it. It could be, it'd be worth your while.
Yep, same time on the 26th between 4 and 5 on BayRadio International. Looking forward to speaking to Nathan Sweeney from Marlborough. And indeed, Christina Brady will be here with some toughy questions for him as well.
And in the meantime, if you have anything you need advice on with regard to pensions, investments, or, if you're worried about assets you have in the UK, please get in touch. info@blacktowerfm.com. If you put Christina Brady or BayRadio, it comes through to me straight away. Or else go on our website, blacktowerfm.com, and fill in the contact or info form, and it will come through, and we will get in touch with you within 24 to 48 hours. Or you can just Google us, phone the office, and we can arrange for you to come in, or we can come and see you, or we can do a Teams or a video call. So there are various options, and remember, we have offices across Europe, in the UK, in the US, so wherever you are, we should be able to help you.